everybody in business or real estate needs to build a personal and business brand so that it can get known. If you're not known, you're not going to be able to raise private capital. It's going to be, or I say not, it's going to be a lot harder for you to raise private capital. You're going to not get the deals that somebody like that is raising private cap or is building a brand.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to another episode. My name is Julian Castle. I've got Chris Rood on today. Chris Rood is a experienced real estate investor and entrepreneur with more than 20 years of experience. He's built a $40 million portfolio within different niches of single family, apartments, short-term rentals, and mobile home parks. And he's actually the founder of Allies Mastermind, where he empowers others and to scale their businesses and achieve financial freedom. And so today we're going to be talking about some of his journey insights and strategies to building wealth and success. So, Chris, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great getting to know you online, and I know you have a really great story. So, tell us. I mean, I believe you got started when you were 22, right? When you were you started a couple businesses back then. Can you tell us kind of like what was your thinking behind starting businesses at that young age, and what was the reason you did that?
Well, for one, I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to this. I was very hard-headed, wasn't very employable, had a big mouth, had a lot of energy, and didn't like to be told what to do.
Hmm.
Um, and that kind of transmigrated into me at 22. I was a junior in college, telling myself, man, I just need to start a business. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I got a lot of energy, and I know I don't want to work for somebody and be told what to do and make, $30,000 a year. This is back in 2000, four, 3 or 4. So with that said, my dad sent me to get the oil change in his truck, and and went wait in line at a quick lube, and people were complaining about how long it was taking, and a light bulb went off in my head because at the time I was trying to think of ideas of stuff that was a low barrier to entry because I didn't have a whole lot of skill sets. Say, what the hell can I do? And then I heard the people complaining, and I went back. I had the idea. I was like, man, I bet you if I started an on-site oil change business and I went to their house or wherever they work, they wouldn't have to leave work and I could just go change their oil.
Mm.
So I mentioned it to my dad. He said, son, that's a great idea. I said, okay, Dad, I'm going to do it. I need to borrow $100. I borrowed $100 from my dad. He bought a set of filter wrenches and some tools. And the first oil change I did was on his diesel truck. He showed me where the oil filter was at and the plug. I said, well, shit, this ain't that hard.
Yeah.
And from there, I printed up a bunch of business cards and I started handing out cards everywhere I went. And I ended up picking
Hmm.
up a bunch of fleet accounts in the oil field where I live here in South Louisiana. It's heavy oil and gas. And my whole family's in the oil field. They work in some facet of the oil field. So I was able to connect with a lot of resources of people that were fleet managers of their oil field companies. And I would go straight to them and try to pick up their whole account, right? And that's exactly
Hmm.
what I did. And I did that for 2 years. And by the time I graduated college, I had built a big a pretty big book of business. I had made 100 and I think $120,000 by the time I was a senior in college, about to graduate. By that time, I had expanded into car washes also, and I was diversifying rock chip repair, windshield replacement. So I would go to their place of business. I would change their oil, wash their car, fix the rock chip, change the air filter, wiper blades, and I started diversifying inside of that vertical to where I could get the ticket price up. And I'd go to somebody's place and change their oil, and they'd leave with a $350 ticket. Right, this is a lot of money for a 22-year-old back in 2003 and 4 and 5. And man, I graduated college and I freaking rolled with that. I was like, I ain't gonna get a job making 30 grand a year like my buddies. I'm gonna just roll with this. Ended up buying a couple trucks and trailers, had a couple employees, and started scaling that. And then I came to realize I hit a stump. I'm like, this is not scalable. I can't just keep chasing people all around. So I was like, man, I need a physical location. So I started putting some feelers out to try to buy a physical location. And what you think about, what you focus on, you attract. I caught
Hmm.
wind of a person that was not paying the landlord. He had a mechanic shop in Quick Lube, and he wasn't paying the landlord. So I figured out who the landlord was, and I went straight to her and I said, hey, listen, I'm young and hungry. I have a business. I heard this guy's not paying you, kick his ass out and I'll give you more than what he's paying you for rent. And that's exactly what she
Ah.
did. She kicked his ass out, put me in, and I freaking crushed it. I mean, I doubled, tripled my income because no longer was I having to go chase, but I still kept the on-site auto glass business. I was making a whole lot of money. I did that for about 8 months, and I was like, you know what? It was 8 months to a year. I was like, you know what? I want another shop. So end up putting some more feelers out, and everybody in the mechanic business, quick lube business knew each other. I got wind of another motivated seller of a guy that was on drugs that owned a shop that wasn't paying his taxes or his employees. And
Mhm.
I went straight to him and said, hey, dude, I know you're about to lose your shop. They putting liens on your building. I'll buy you out. And sure enough, we made a deal. And I ended up putting he got an offer for like $760,000 for his shop in physical location. I made him an offer. I said, dude, I'll give you 100,000 more. I don't know why I did that at that time. I was so overly eager. Knowing what I know now, I would have offered maybe 20,000 more instead of
Mhm.
100,000 more. But I offered him 860,000 for the shop. Another guy offered him 760. So I did that. I didn't know how I was going to get the money, but I just figured it out, right? And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. We figure shit out. I put in a contract, and now I had to figure out the money situation. So this is 2007, and as you know, real estate was booming in 2007 before the 2008 crash. Well, I had built a spec house 3 years prior to that. And I noticed the value of my house had doubled. So I told my wife, I said, Patty, why don't we go and put this house for sale? And we should better get the money we need to better buy that, put the down payment. Because I went and I had good credit. I went and got an approval for an SBA loan, and they approved me, but I needed to put 20% down. So
Yeah.
put my house for sale. Man, everything lined up perfectly. I put my house for sale. 35 days later, my house sold. My house went under contract like the first week I put it for sale. It sold another 30 days after that. I made $119,000 off my first flip, which was my personal home,
Oh.
3 months before the 2008 crash. And I took that.
Wow.
I mean, it was perfect timing. I couldn't have timed it any better. I don't that, and that, no skill. This is all luck, all timing,
Yeah.
luck, right, and being bold, right. And that's a tip for you younger guys watching is you got to be bold. Took that money, gave it to SBA. I needed like 122,000, whatever it was, but I had 119. I made. I had 4 or 5 grand of cash, and I got my second shop, doubled my income again. And man, I went and I bought a foreclosure in a different neighborhood, fixed that up, lived in that property for about 18 months, flipped that, and then used that for another down payment for another shop. And I did that a couple more times. I ended up buying 4 shops. And I was the youngest independent operator in my town at 25 years old with 4 locations, 33 employees. And that's how I cut my teeth in entrepreneurship. I did that till I was about 30 years old, 32. Yeah, 30, 31, 32. And I kind of started to get burned out. Me and my wife were having a bunch of babies. I had 5. I think we were at the verge of having our 4th kid, and I was working every weekend, making a lot of money. I was making 350, 400, 500,000 a year, depending on the year how good it was. And I got burned out, and I wasn't seeing my wife and kids much because I was working 6 days a week. And I realized I can't do this forever. I got to figure out something else. I need more freedom. And I was like, well, man, real estate got me here. Real estate can put me back to where I want to be. So I started Googling real estate investing, and I had right around the same time I read Rich Dad Poor Dad's, Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and I was like, man, buy assets. That makes a lot of freaking sense. I already do that naturally before I even read that. I was doing that naturally, and went and started really deep dive in real estate investing. Started typing in real estate investing on YouTube, and then I saw somebody talk about wholesaling. You can make money wholesaling houses without actually buying or flipping. So I started studying that. I was like, shit, I can do that. And started doing that. But prior to that, I'm skipping a section of my story. I had made a bunch of money, and I had a bunch of money saved. I had about $250,000 saved as a young 30-year-old, and I wanted to buy some more real estate. So I ended up buying a bunch of single-family homes, just making a bunch of offers on properties on MLS, not knowing how to buy direct to seller yet, what I teach now, and how to buy properties at really good prices, buying okay deals. But I ended up buying 33 single-family homes off MLS, and putting the and then putting tenants in and renting it, thinking I could just live off my passive income and start building wealth, and come to realize that passive income ain't passive, and living off your passive income it ain't that simple. And tenants don't always pay, they don't always keep your shit up, houses don't always stay in the greatest shape, and you got a lot of expenses. And that was kind of my first cutting my teeth on rental property. I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth. And then 2014 came, and the economy crashed here in Louisiana and the South, because the oil field went from $128 a barrel to 28. We lost tens of thousands of jobs. Most of my rentals went empty, or half of them, because I had some nice higher end stuff, and that really hurt. My shop's income started losing revenue every quarter because a lot of business started shutting down, moving to Texas. I was up shit creek without a paddle. At one point, I was losing $20,000 a month, and I was right around the same time I got into wholesaling, and I kind of had to pivot from my shops. I ended up hiring, I watched a bunch of YouTube stuff. I actually wholesaled a deal just from YouTube University, made $2,500. I was like, okay, there's something to this, and I hired 3 mentors back to back to back to show me how to wholesale. Well, my first mentor, Kavian Falvo is his name. He stole $50,000 from me, that son of a bitch. I had his ass arrested it took me about a year, but I had him arrested. And my next 2 mentors were great. They showed me how to wholesale. I crushed it in their program. I already knew how to run a business. I was real skilled at running a business. I was good at sales, talking to people, but I ended up freaking making all kind of money wholesaling. And I was able to cover my losses with my rentals and my shops. And I ended up putting all my shops for sale, ended up selling to a major, one of the biggest oil change distributors in the whole United States, Express Oil. They bought me out in 2017, made a big rip. Bought my dream property, a beach house in Destin, Florida, and 1031 exchanged that money and sold off the rest of my shops, except for one. I still got one to this day. And I went full-time real estate investing, started wholesaling. Then I just went full bananas in real estate, learned how to raise capital, started going to other masterminds, started flipping properties, and I started buying a bunch of mobile home parks. Ended up buying 19 mobile home parks since 2017 up to present time. Started developing neighborhoods, partnering up with people, started partnering up with my students. I started a coaching program around 2017 because I crushed it in the coaching program, and all the students were asking me how to do this and try to help them, because I'm posting checks in the Facebook group, and I've come to realize I'm better at this than my coaches. And I ended up starting a coaching program and partnered up with my best students, and I created the Allies Mastermind for entrepreneurs and like-minded real estate investors to get together in a group to start and learn from each other. And iron, firm believer in iron sharpens iron, and having an abundance mindset and learning from other skilled entrepreneur. And that's the fastest way to fast track your success as an entrepreneur. Then I started developing a lot of concepts that you probably hear me talk about on social media, like fast, medium, and slow money, from mistakes I've made doing it the wrong way, right? For you guys that never heard me, the concept of fast, medium, and slow money, I had to coin that for myself, because a lot of people would tell you to start off with buying a bunch of rental property, which I call slow money, because you think you could just buy a bunch of rental property and quit your job or your business and live off your passive income. Well, it ain't that easy, right? And fast money is money that transacts on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. That's your W-2. That's wholesaling. That's a small business that gets paid on a weekly, daily, or monthly basis, where it's your active income to pay your bills. And you got medium money, which I would call a 3 to 6 month cycle of flipping. Or maybe that's a GC, a contractor, where he's building houses. He may not get paid for 3 to 6 months. And then slow money is going to be your buy and hold land development. Well, if you're too lopsided on one or the other and not balanced throughout, it messes up the rest of them, right? If all you do is slow money, well, guess what? It's slow money. And, a couple $100 on a few rental properties is not going to change your life. I don't even care if you have, 50 or 100. You better have some fast money where you got to pop. Either you got fast money where you got a business that's printing money to help cover some of your expenses that you're going to have, or you have, some type of income to help cover your daily, weekly, and monthly expenses, to where you can forget about the slow money. As I tell people, slow money is just like a 401k. Do you live off your 401k? No. Same thing with rental properties. When you buy rental properties, you need to forget about it. Yes. Do you want them to cash flow? Yes. Do they always cash flow? No. But rental properties, slow money, are important to the degree of this order. And I had to figure this out because nobody talks about this. Everybody say, "Oh, look at me, I live off my cash flow." No, you don't. The best store, slow money rental property, number one, is the best store value to hedge against inflation. That's the number one priority. You will make more money from appreciation. One, two, depreciation from not paying taxes. Three, principal pay down over time from paying down your principal balance. Then four, cash flow in that order. And I had to figure that out the hard way because I was listening to all the gurus on YouTube and Instagram and say, yeah, I just live off my cash flow here at the beach, buy my program, right? Buy my course, bro. All the bullshit you've seen for the past 10 years. So I had to reverse engineer that for myself and realize that that's slow money. And real estate investing is a long game. It's more of a 10-year cycle where you want to buy and hold for a long period of time. Hopefully you get some rent appreciation, property appreciation, principal pay down. You get the tax benefits. Yes, it'll cash flow here and there, but you don't want to depend on that. You want to depend on your fast money and your medium money, which would be wholesaling, flipping for you purists out there that are like me that are full-time operators, which I can fancy myself as a full-time operator of real estate investing, where I have my fast money is wholesaling. I do have some service provider businesses that do service the real estate sector. I got an HVAC company, junk removal. My wife's a realtor. I do masterminds, make money off of that. And then I have my media money, which is my flips, right? I do a ton of flips all over the country with my students and in my backyard where I live. And I do small land development deals, right? I call it, it's the land, trailer land home packages where I find a piece of land, I get it approved and put a double wide on there, and we go ahead and sell it, right? It's usually takes about 3 to 4 months, 3 to 5 months, but it's bigger rips. It's a little bit more risky, but it's more money. You might make 50 to 70 grand on a trailer package or a flip, right? Whereas wholesaling is the average wholesale deal is only 12 to 15 grand. So the idea is to work on your fast and medium money, stack the cash. Once you start having a tax problem and you're paying Uncle Sam, then you roll your fast and medium money profits minus your everyday and monthly expenses, and what's left over, you roll that into slow money from your pipeline of wholesale deals from your direct to seller marketing. You cherry pick the best deals, you wholesale the best, or I'm sorry, you keep the best and you wholesale the rest and flip, and that's the model. And if you do that over an extended period of time, you will build wealth, guaranteed. So that's kind of my short version of my story, 50,000 foot view. What questions you got for me?
Chris, that was such a great wealth of information there. So let's just get to it. Let's get started. What kind of habits should people have when they're getting into this? Like, what separates the winners from the losers?
Dude, man, listen, you ain't got to be that smart to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you can't be no dummy, but I would put more significance on balls versus brains. And when I say balls, I mean, you got to be a little brave, right? You got to have some type of tenacity about you that makes you be able to handle risk. Your risk tolerance needs to be higher than your intelligence. Some people become so smart. All these academics, I watch them, they stroke their ego and their diplomas because they made straight A's in school. And not a one of them could take any calculated risk because they mentally soft because they scared of everything. You need more balls than brains, for one. Two, you got to be too stupid to quit. Three, you got to be consistent. If you just show up every day and do the same thing repetitively, yes, it's boring. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's very mundane. And you do the things every day to drive revenue and move that needle every single day, even if it's a fraction of a percent every single day. And you do that for 10 years, you will outperform the Harvard graduates, the super high intellect academics, the chauvinistic style gurus on social media that are telling you that all this shit is easy. It's not easy, folks. I'll tell you right now. This is some of the hardest shit you're going to do in your lifetime, but it's also Don't want to scare everybody. It's some of the most fulfilling work you ever do. Financial freedom ain't free, right? It's super hard. And I would say those three things are the most important. But I'd say out of, there's obviously need to be discipline, right? You got to be disciplined and make yourself, no, I don't have a boss. You got to be disciplined. I have to wake up every day and put in, I do the same thing every day. I'm very habitual. I'm a creature of habit. And I think every successful entrepreneur is somewhat a creature of habit. They don't have random motion every day. They have a schedule and they do the same thing every day that moves the needle. They will maybe make some adjustments and pivot as the economy pivots and things change, technology changes things. But for the most part, they have a schedule and they're very disciplined. And the key word, the most important out of all that is consistency over time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's great and wonderful. Tell us, like, what's the importance of a mentor or mentors? You seem to know at a very young age, that this was something that you really
Yeah.
needed, but maybe not other, maybe the audience doesn't think so. So, like, why does that make a difference in your life and in someone's life that's listening?
Man, at a young age, I knew that I didn't know a damn thing. You understand that? And that's a skill. A lot of people think they know everything. At 22 years old, I didn't know a damn thing, and I knew I didn't know a damn thing. But you know what I did do? I went to a mastermind when I was 22 years old and joined a business group locally, and I was the youngest cat in there by 20 years because I knew that I didn't know, and I wanted to know. And I learned more from that business group than I did of all my 4-year college degree. So the ability to know that you don't know, the ability to want to learn, right?
Hmm.
You look at people that are some of the richest people on the planet, like Warren Buffett, right? The dude's a learning machine. The dude reads 6 hours a day to this day. He's in his 90s. He's worth, I don't know how many hundreds of billions. But man, you just got to learn. And then you got to be willing to unlearn and then relearn because everything's always changing. And the ability to invest in yourself to skip time and skip the mistakes. I mean, look, either way you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay with a mentor, or you're gonna pay with mistakes. But I tell you right now, a mentor is a whole lot cheaper than making a massive mistake in business or real estate that'll cripple you for years. And trust me, I've got $1 million. I've got a $1.7 million mistake right now
Hmm.
that I'm working on. So your likelihood and probability, and you're playing a probability game as an entrepreneur, goes up tremendously if you have a coach and mentor. Let me ask you this, Julian, did you ever play sports?
Yeah.
Did you have a coach?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever went to any sports youth activity in any sport, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, soccer, where there wasn't a coach?
No.
No, it doesn't exist. You know what the funny part is? Business and real estate is a sport. And people get so hung up on having a coach and they wonder why they can't be successful in business and real estate. You, I always ask people, man, you played football, right? Yeah, you had a high school coach. We of course had a coach because they don't want to. They sometimes they don't want to invest in a program, right? And look, I'm sitting here talking like this. I've invested over $1 million into coaches, mentors, and worked with some of the biggest names in the industry because I wanted to get close to them. I'm not scared to invest in myself. But for a lot of you guys that get hung up on investing in a coach and mentor, dude, it's a sport. Real estate's a sport. It's got rules. It's got boundary lines. It's got laws. It's got strategic unfair advantages that are trade secrets. Why wouldn't you learn how to do that and pay somebody that's already been there? So I think coaches and mentors is pivotal. Can you be successful as a coach and mentor? Yes, but I know very few people that in business that are super successful that didn't have some kind of coach or mentor. And where that coach doesn't necessarily have to be a physical coach in person. It could be picking up a book, and reading on business. That's what I did in my younger 20s. I still read to this day. I read every morning, like a stack of books.
Hmm.
This is look all the books in these two shelves. That's all books I've read already. That's books I'm working on. I read to this day. So there is no excuse, but you got to learn and you got to practice and you got to put in the reps and you got to build up skills. And the way you build up skills is tens of thousands of reps. And then what happens when you build those skills is all it is pattern recognition. You're just looking for patterns in the marketplace, patterns in business, patterns in real estate to pick up on that move the needle. from doing it tens of thousands of times. And the way you can pick up those patterns right away is hire a coach and mentor. It tells you exact pattern that you need to do to move the needle in real estate or business.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. So tell us, if you were to coach us right now, those of you that are
Yep.
getting started, what would you tell them to do?
If you're going to, for real estate or business,
Real estate.
if I'm a real estate guy, you want to master the basics, right? In any sport and in any endeavor you take on, you master the basics. So what's the basics in real estate? I've had to coin this too for myself. And direct to seller marketing, raising private capital, and building a brand is going to be the basics for real estate. If you look at a triangle, you got one point of that triangle, the bottom corner is direct to seller marketing. The other point is raising private capital. And the other point is building a brand. Every day I focus on those three things. Why do I focus on those three things? Direct to seller marketing helps me get off market properties from motivated sellers with lots of equity where I can't lose. In business, you want to cheat legally, morally, and ethically. And the way you cheat is you have unfair advantages. And buying direct to seller is an unfair advantage. The other point, raising private capital. If you don't know how to raise private capital, you will hit a ceiling and you will hit a wall. So you want to learn how to raise private capital. Building a brand. Everybody in business or real estate needs to build a personal and business brand so that it can get known. If you're not known, you're not going to be able to raise private capital. It's going to be a lot harder for you to raise private capital. You're going to not get the deals that somebody like that is raising private cap or is building a brand. So those three are the basic fundamentals. And in the middle of that triangle would be allies, right? Partnering up with the right people with different but equal skill sets to help you leverage in real estate. The cool thing about real estate, it's a team sport. You can do way more with a lot of people than you can trying to do this by yourself. So I would tell you that's the basic fundamentals. And I like to talk too about the progression chart that I've had to coin for myself because a lot of people start off with buy and hold, which you should not start off with. You got to look at real estate just like you would getting an education. Everybody starts off at elementary school. You learn the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, right? Well, elementary school in real estate is direct to seller marketing, buying properties at wholesale prices. You make money when you what? When you buy. If you don't get that right, it screws up everything else. So if you make money when you buy, I mean, you capture equity and you bought right, you can afford to have mistakes down the road because you can get out of that property. If you overpay, it screws you. So you start off with direct to seller marketing, which essentially is buying properties at wholesale prices. And then from there, you can either wholesale it, you can flip it, or you can keep it as a buy and hold. But I teach everybody in my program, you start off with direct to seller marketing to buy at wholesale prices. That's year one. Year two, which was junior high after elementary school, is the art of raising private capital. Because if you know how to buy deals right, it's easy to raise private capital because your loan to value ratio is so good because you're buying properties at wholesale prices. You're stealing it legally, morally, and ethically, like I teach. Then after junior high is high school. Now you're ready to flip. You're buying at wholesale prices from elementary school. You're using other people's money because you're raising private capital to flip your deals at high school. You don't want to use your own money. You use your own money, you're going to end up blowing yourself up and stay stressed out because all your money's out in the streets. You don't want your money in the streets. You want other people's money out in your deals out in the streets. Now you're buying at wholesale prices. You're raising private capital. You're flipping properties. You're making good money now. Next is college. After high school, from flipping, you got guess what? You got a tax problem now. Now it's time to do buy and hold, slow money, fast money, elementary school, medium money, which is high school. Now you're ready for slow money, buy and hold. And now you're ready for that depreciation. You're ready to start investing some of your capital back in your deals and get that wealth building going, slow money. But you got your fast and medium money still going. You don't stop wholesaling and flipping. You just roll your profits from your fast and medium money, elementary school, high school, into college, which is slow money, buy and hold. You do that for X amount of years, you start building wealth. Now you're ready for the big boy leagues after buy and hold, was college, which is what? Yes, working on getting the professor mode. Now you ready to become a professor. That's land development. That's where I'm at. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I'm developing neighborhoods, and that's a big boy game. You don't want to start off with land development. It's a slow money game, but it's big money, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart, right? And you might not get paid for 2 or 3 years on neighborhoods that you're building, or even smaller developments that may take a year. You want to end up being a developer, right? The biggest players in real estate are not wholesalers and flippers or even apartment guys. They're developers. Donald Trump made his money from being a developer. He didn't wholesale and flip properties. He developed. Now, once you developing, you still buying at wholesale prices, you still raising capital, you still flipping, you still buying whole, you developing. Hopefully maybe 10, 20 years, you got a big pile of cash. What's next? I call that legend mode, which is what? Being a lender. Lending, the banks never lose. You want to be the bank, and you want to find another Chris Rood, you want to find another Julian to lend your money to, who knows what they're doing, a good operator, and you start lending your money, and that's true passive income. That's the cycle of where you should start and where you should finish in the correct order, logically, that I had to come up with and coin for myself through trial and error, through research, through application, through making a lot of mistakes and thinking back and like reflecting, learning, unlearning, relearning, and dialing in my skill sets to where I can create a pathway to wealth for myself and my students.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. That's a really clear, level by level description of what, real estate really is and the different, levels that you can do. And I want to dive in, to most of the people that are listening is usually beginners who are, looking at these videos. So, if you were to start today wholesaling, you mentioned direct to seller marketing. What are some ways that someone can get started with direct to seller marketing?
It depends on how much money and capital you have to throw at it. I mean, if you got a lot of money to throw at it, like I do, we spend $70,000 a month in direct mail. It's expensive, but it gives me back my time. I'm not chasing sellers. Sellers are chasing me. But if you don't have a lot of money, you can do driving for dollars. You can post on social media. You can network. You can put out bandit signs. You can cold call. Cold calling is fairly inexpensive. But what do all those things do? They eat up your time. You're either going to trade out money for deal flow, or you got to trade out your time and labor to generate leads. And if you're a young guy, you're just getting started. I started with bandit signs out of the back of my truck. I built my portfolio and built what you see today from bandit signs, started back in 2014. So if I'm young, I'm cold calling, I'm driving for dollars, I'm posting on social media telling people I'm looking for off-market properties, I'm putting out bandit signs, and I'm shaking the trees. I'm doing agent outreach. I'm reaching out to agents to see if they got any off-market properties, pocket listings. Those things right there. Those four things: driving for dollars, bandit signs, cold calling, agent outreach for pocket listings. That don't take a whole lot of money. Bandit signs, it takes just a lot of effort because it takes time to do all that. But once you start dialing in and you're making money, then you can start doing direct mail and getting off-market deals. Now, once you become more of a sophisticated investor, there's three ways to make money in real estate. You can capture value, create value, or time value. The first echelon of that is the first part of that cycle in the progression chart, which is capturing value through direct to seller marketing from motivated sellers, where you can actually go and find properties and buy them for less than what they're worth so that you can capture equity and start building your portfolio and then wholesaling and flipping. That's capturing value. Second is creating value. That's the construction phase of real estate, where you are creating value through forcing appreciation through the construction of either building a brand new building from scratch or doing a value add on a mobile home park, apartment, or a single family home. That's creating value. And then three, that's for people that have a lot of money, big hedge funds, people like Grant Cardone. They time value. they have so much money. They don't have time to do new construction or value add or even do direct to seller marketing. They place capital where they know based off of demographics, statistical data, um, jobs, placement, companies moving into specific area. They know that the migration patterns are real good and that area is going to continue to expand. So they go and buy a property at full retail, knowing in the next 5, 10 years it's probably going to appreciate. Rents will go up, property values will go up. I just did that with the cabin I just bought last week, and a short-term vacation rental cabin. I got a pretty good deal on it, but I know the area is going to boom because they just built a $165 million casino, and it's going to bring in a lot of money. So that's timing value, right? That's a little bit more sophisticated, but that's the three ways to break down in its simplicity: capturing value, creating value, timing value. You start with capturing value, you start going into creating value. Then as you get into it years down the road, you're more sophisticated. You got some capital. You're not willing to mess with the old C-class product. You're ready now to time value.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. You know, I think there's a lot of people that don't really understand this part of the business, which is really you have to know how to value properties, you know?
Yep.
And so I wanted to see if you could give some kind of coaching or advice on this because, you can do the direct to seller marketing, you can go direct to agent, but if you don't know what a good value or how to capture the value, then you can't really
Yep.
capture the value. So,
Well, you can't capture value if you don't even know what value is because you don't know what you're looking at.
hmm
You don't. So what is the art of capturing value? It's knowing what something's worth.
hmm
If you know what it's worth, and you can make an offer and live in the delta of what it's worth and what you paid for it, then that's how you're going to capture equity and value. But the only way to do that is understand your neighborhood, understand the area. How do you get to a point where you're competent in knowing and understanding the area? Well, good for you guys that are young, because when I first started, I didn't have this app. You got sites that'll tell you what properties are worth. Zillow, I still use Zillow to this day. Zillow, Realtor.com, they literally tell you what properties are worth. Now, are they exactly accurate? No, but they give you a ballpark, and that can help you. So the cool thing is technology has really kind of changed the game. You don't necessarily have to learn the market so well that you have to call a realtor to give you comps and everything, or you have to learn it to the point where you know it cold. You'll do that over time just by looking at values on Zillow from addresses of properties that come through your pipeline, and you'll start learning the market. But you're going to capture equity by just using the sites and knowing what things work, and then understanding how much work it needs and backing that off of your offer from understanding construction. And the way you do that is you put in the reps. You go look at properties, you bring a contract out there, you ask them what it's going to cost to fix. It's like anything else. You don't know how to ride a bike when you started riding a bike. You just jumped on it and you started pedaling. It's no different in real estate. Jump on and start pedaling. Go make offers, go on appointments, go bring contractors to give you quotes on stuff. Find out what it costs per square foot for some flooring, what it costs for a roof, an AC for a certain size house, what it costs for granite countertops. This stuff is not rocket science. It's just a matter of you putting in the reps and building up pattern recognition to be able to think in terms of when you see something, you understand values, you understand what you need to offer because you know what things cost to fix from experience of doing it so many times. It's that simple. It's simple, but it ain't easy. You
yeah.
just got to put in the work.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned that you had to learn from the people that know how to do this. So the contractors,
Yep.
they have all the knowledge. Like they know what things cost, and bringing them on is, it's like being resourceful. Having them teach you, what it is worth, to
That's
fix.
right.
So yeah, and when you talk about like wholesaling, for example, you know how to do the direct to seller marketing, you know how to capture it. There's obviously the side that you have to disposition the property, sell it. You have to find the buyer, and then buyer. How do you recommend someone goes about doing that?
Doing what? I'm sorry, I had another call I had to exit out of.
what I said was that once you do the direct to seller marketing, once you do the capturing
Yep.
value, you have to
Yep.
sell this property. You have to
Correct. Yeah. You got to,
sell it to someone else.
correct. You got to build your cash buyers list to sell.
Hmm.
And that's another cool thing that's a lot easier for people than when I first started. Is you could sell these deals on Facebook Marketplace as long as you have the right contract that gives you that allows you. And like my contracts I give to my student, it it says in the contract that the buyer gives the seller gives the buyer rights to posting the contract or posting the property on Facebook, social media, MLS, things of that nature to market the property. So it's a lot easier than it was 10 years ago. So technology has changed the game. I mean, you can build the cash buyers list off of marketplace, but have access to selling it to retail buyers who'll pay you way more than an investor. So it's so easy that you don't even have to think about it anymore. Before you had to build your buyers list person by networking, maybe putting out ghost bandit signs. I built a lot of my cash buyers from putting out ghost bandit signs, putting cash buyers needed, or um, posting on the bandit sign 3-2 cash buyer needed, right? And that would actually attract a lot of investors thinking that somebody was selling their property at a discount, and they'd call my phone and I'd save their number. Save their number in my phone as an investor. I say, oh, I sold that property, but I do have something else coming up. I'll call you. And I would just build that list. And I still use that list to this day. But honestly, we sell most of our deals on Marketplace.
Hmm. Nice, nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
And
Uh,
I don't, and on top of that, and just networking, saving people's numbers in your phone. But we flip way more than we wholesale.
yeah, yeah, that's amazing. I want to touch on a little bit on this mobile home park space
Yep.
uh, because I know it's a great asset type, and I know that you know a lot about it, and I think that for the people listening, it would be valuable for them to hear. Uh, you know,
It's affordable housing, right? As the economy has gotten worse, inflation has destroyed a lot of people's purchasing power. The only thing that's left is affordable housing, and this is why I like mobile homes, mobile home parks, the trail land home packages because it's the last vestiges of affordable housing. I don't recommend you keeping the trailers long term if they're old because they are a depreciating asset, and I think if you're going to buy mobile homes, you just need to, if they're old, you need to make sure you raise the capital to gut them to the studs and just redo them from scratch and understand that they're only going to be good for probably another 6 to 8, 8 to 10 years, depending on how well you keep them up and how well that tenant keeps them up. But you don't want to hold these mobile homes long term. You want to eventually sell off the mobile homes maybe to the tenants, owner via owner finance, rent to own, and just drop to lot rent once the product life cycle, meaning once the trailer gets to a point where it's so beat up that it's going to need to start looking at having another rehab. So, but yeah, I mean that's I love the asset class. I love short-term vacation rentals. Those are probably my two favorite asset classes: mobile homes. I'm about to get into tiny homes, little tiny cabins, and starting renting those Airbnb. I just got my dealer's license in Georgia. We're starting to ship that. We're buying it wholesale and we're selling wholesale to investors across the country. So that's kind of my game. Um, Outside of that, I don't really have a whole lot to talk about mobile home parks except for the fact that they're still affordable and it's always going to be a need and a want, and you can only fall so far. You
yeah,
definitely don't want to be in the hood with a mobile home park. You want to try to find them. I'd buy a shitty mobile home park in a great area, but I won't buy a great mobile home park in a shitty. I just sold off 5 parks, so I need to recalculate. I know we're up close to 650, 700, but I'm probably back down to 450 ish if I had to guess.
uh,
But I'm slowly selling off my mobile home parks, and we are investing more into short-term vacation rentals, other businesses. Most of my portfolio is here in the South. Insurance has doubled and tripled, and I still have a lot
wow,
of equity in my properties, and we are reallocating a lot of our equity and money from mobile home parks into asset classes that are a little bit further north. than the Gulf of Mexico
Mm-hmm.
to get away from all the insurance costs. So we're selling off a good portion of our portfolio in the mobile home park space.
Mm, that makes sense. Yeah, insurance is a killer.
Yep.
Um, and that's incredible. So, I want to talk about some of your mastermind students. I want to
Yep.
highlight some of the people in there. So, what's a if you could, what's a typical story? Like, what do you see in there? Like, what
Well,
kind of story does someone come in having, and what happens?
Well, it's the same story of most entrepreneurs. They're different breeds of cat. Most of us as entrepreneurs are wired differently. We're growth oriented. We're motivated by money. We want to have a better life. We want to be more, do more, and have more, right? And most people are not wired like that. So if you're hanging around a bunch of people who are not entrepreneurial and you are trying to have high level conversations with people that are not interested in making money, you're going to probably look down, you're going to be looked down upon, and you're going to be frowned upon and be like, oh, you worry about his money, and you're going to be an outcast. And that's what Allies is about. It's a bunch of outcast entrepreneurs that are looking to build wealth, make money, and be a part of their tribe. And that's what I offer. That's what I create: the community, the relationships, the skills, the knowledge that's shared in these masterminds is second to none. I bring in real operators that have built real businesses in different asset classes to show you guys how to skill up and do exactly what they've done in a fraction of the time, and to network with other allies in the group to partner. And that's what I've encouraged. That's what I do. That's what I have a lot of. I have a lot of partners that were ex-students, now partners that we share value, right? You bring a deal, I'll bring the capital, I'll sponsor the loan, or vice versa, right? It's all about value exchange and leveraging off of each other's skill sets and in geographical locations. I can buy deals all over the country if I got a good operator who's boots on the ground, who's a partner. So we leverage Allies Mastermind to help each other make more money, build wealth, and it's just fun, man. It's fun hanging around people that are growth driven. So
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. You mentioned that one of the two pillars is raising capital,
yep,
and you mentioned that it was right next to building a brand.
yep.
So if someone was to want to start raising capital or build a brand, like what would they do? How do
Well,
they get started?
well, the three is direct to seller marketing, raising private capital, building a brand. Um,
Yeah.
if they were going to want to raise private capital and build a brand, they don't need to do that first. They need to learn how to find deals. They need to do direct to seller marketing first. What I talk about, the progression chart, elementary school,
Hmm.
because it all starts with a what? Finding a what? A deal.
Finding the deal.
If you can't find a deal, you can't raise money. If you ain't got a deal, you can't put it on social media to brag about it, to build a brand, to better attract more attention to raise private money. So you got to learn the basics. You got to use that progression chart I just told you about and work it in the right order. Master direct to seller marketing at finding deals, off market direct to seller for motivated sellers and capturing equity, so that it teaches you how to find a deal. It teaches you how to negotiate. It teaches you and forces you how to learn the market from direct to seller marketing and wholesaling. If you learn wholesaling, it'll naturally, just by default, teach you all the skill sets you need to raise private money. Because if you got a deal at 50 cents on the dollar, you think it's hard to raise money from an investor? Of course not. If you got a deal at 50 cents on the dollar and then you can put it on social media and flip it and show that, hey, I just flipped this property. We bought it for X. We sold it for Y. We made this amount of money. And I pay, I'm looking for investors next time. And you can make 12% on your money through social media. And I'd call it bragging to branding. You're showing the
Mm,
deal. You're showing the deal and you're branding, but you're also using the brand to raise private money. But then you got the private money from direct to seller marketing. You see how they all intertwine? It's association by logic. There's a method to
yeah.
the madness, and in the correct order. There is a sequence of things that you need to do in the correct order, and if you don't do it, it messes everything else up.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, wow. And can you tell us a little bit about how you structure your family time with your business, like how you make sure that you stay productive while
Yeah,
being a husband, a father,
that's a
you
great
know.
question. I'm from South Louisiana. We like to eat gumbo, right? Gumbo. I don't know if you've ever heard of gumbo, right? And that's how we live our life. We mix it all together. chicken, sausage, and we homeschool our kids. We bring our kids on business trips with us. We mix it all together, and that way I can maximize my time with my wife, my kids. I homeschool them. We don't send them to the communist schools. We teach them what we want them to learn. They have a lot of freedom, and they have a lot of personal trainers. I teach them MMA, boxing.
Mm.
We go on trips, so we mix it all together, and that's been the best way for us to better spend quality time and still do business. They get to watch. We bring them with us to our masterminds that we put on every quarter, the Allies Mastermind. So they don't know anything other than that.
Nice, nice. That's amazing. And for the men in the room, that are looking to find a lucky wife, that can ride along with them in this ride, what do you recommend to some young folks that are going to get into that?
Get them drinking the Kool-Aid. Bring them to a mastermind, kicking, screaming, fighting you. It don't matter. Figure out a way to get them to a mastermind so they understand your journey. They understand why you're wired like a crazy entrepreneur. If you put them in the mastermind group with a bunch of high level entrepreneurs, the energy level is so through the roof, is so high, they will not help but to be supportive, want to push with you, and because they'll understand the power of masterminds. They'll understand the power of building wealth together. But the key to that is just to get them in the room. And that's what I did with my wife. She wasn't always on board. She supported everything I did, but she didn't want to. I
Mm.
brought her to her first mastermind. I had to coax her into it by telling her I was going to buy her a Chanel purse if she went with me to a mastermind. After that, it was over. She forgot about the Chanel purse. She was so blown away by the mastermind because you can't explain what happens in a mastermind. It's the mastermind effect. Napoleon Hill talks about this in his book, the mastermind effect. One of the chapters, Think and Grow Rich. It's all in there, and it's the truth. You come to an Allies Mastermind of mine, you will leave high as a kite and blown away and fired up to go out there and kick ass.
Okay, amazing. And tell us a little bit about your mastermind program. Like,
Yeah.
tell us.
So we have the Allies Mastermind that we do every quarter, every 3 months. I host them at a different location all over the country where I bring in featured speakers and entrepreneurs that are high level people in their skill level, in their asset class. And I interview them and they share everything, all their secrets and what they've done, how they've done it, the mistakes they've made so that we can avoid them. And obviously me and my wife speak, and we do that every quarter. And then we have a coaching program where we do coaching calls every week and help train people on how to become professional real estate investors like us through some of the tips and tricks that showed you guys, working the progression chart, the deal triangle, learning about direct to seller marketing, raising capital, building a brand, wholesaling, flipping, buy and hold, land development, lending. We teach all that.
Mm, okay, amazing. Yeah, yeah. That's great. Wow. I mean, it's been such a great conversation here. What do you think? What are some parting words for the people that are listening?
This shit ain't easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everybody. I don't sit here and beat the drum for entrepreneurship that everybody should do it. I don't think everybody should do it, but I think if you follow Julian and you watch his podcast, you probably cut from the same cloth because you're looking for more. And I would tell you to give it a shot, right? Give it a shot. Invest in yourself. The best investment, the highest, best asset class you will ever invest in is this right here. It never depreciates. It never needs to be rehabbed. You go and put money into an asset class, guess what? It's going to depreciate over time. The tenants are going to beat it up. You're going to have to rehab it again. This exponentially compounds over time because you get better and better and better because that
Yeah. The
because that skill set compounds and you don't lose value. It just compounds. But I'm gonna need a jump off here soon because I got another appointment here at 1 o'clock. But this was great, Julian. If people are interested, come out to the Allies Mastermind. They can, go to alliesmastermind.com. If they need coaching, they can go to my website, chrisrood.com, or they can follow me on Facebook at Chris Rood and my business page, Chris Rood Entrepreneur, on Facebook and on Instagram at Real Estate Rood. I give away tons of free content on how to do this stuff. And I share my lifestyle, me and my wife's journey, our kids, and just the overall entrepreneurial and real estate life of what it takes to be successful in this game.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate you for sharing this with us. So hope you have a great evening and take care.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you.